All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakah Kodash, and double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, who teach and rule well, teaching 100% truth, and peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwaf that are listening in on this truth and pushing in this truth, trying to make their call of election sure. And shalom to the brothers that's pushing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth. And shalom to the hopeful elect. May the call of election be upon our homes. All right, shalom, man. I'm the brother Corner Waff from the GMS Columbus, Georgia camp, coming back at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Real quick, I'm just trying to make this as super quick as possible. Just really wanted to harp on this. This is something that I was just been meditating on all day in the spirit. And just wanted to bring this out through the spirit, which I'm going to title this lesson, the Lord giveth grace to the humble, man, and just going in basically, on the importance of being humble in his truth, man, and resisting pride, checking pride, constantly examining ourselves for pride, because being in this truth, we all have, different spirits and demons that mess with us, and we have to remember to be humble. So I'm going to open up the scriptures with 1 Peter 5 and verse 5. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder, especially for, younger men, younger brothers, in this truth, a younger brother as myself, we should, try to apply this attribute more and more each and, every day, because, if you don't humble yourself, the Lord will humble you. You see, it says verse 5 again, likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For the Most High resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble. So we can't, forget that in this truth, even with all, the things that we're learning, the knowledge that the Lord has given us, these mysteries that the Yahweh Shai is revealing unto us, that we're still to remain humble, man. In the sight of Yahweh Shai, man. We don't want to, find ourselves, being too prideful, to where we're just, thinking we're something when we're not, man. Because Yahweh Shai will show you, you see, through the spirit that you're not, man. We at the end of the day, we need the Lord, and we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Yahweh Shai giving us the spirit to do so. So we should always, have a humble, mindset in serving Yahweh Shai and trying to, seek more for that humility, in serving the Lord, man. It says, verse 6, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of the Most High, that he may exalt you in due time, because, in his truth, at the end of the day, it ain't about us trying to, uplift ourselves, or trying to seem, like this or that, or trying to get, praises from men, but we're supposed to be humbling ourselves in the sight of the Lord and doing what's pleasing unto him. And in due time, the Lord will give you that increase. The Lord will exalt you, man. You got to let the Lord be the one to do the exalting, man. And you can't put yourself in a position, or try to put yourself in a position that the Lord didn't place you, man. Because that's being prideful, man. We got to be, more humble, and just considering what our roles is in this truth and what Yahweh Shai has given unto us, and apply that, each and every day, man, and just fulfill our measure, So this is also James 4 and verse 10. It says, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. You see? So this is what the Lord is requiring us to do at the end of the day, man. The Lord is requiring of us to be humble, in this truth, man, because we ain't got no reason to be proud about anything, just like, like I said, through the spirit, the Lord, the reason why we even know what we know, the Lord is the reason why we're even in the truth, you see? So we can't find ourselves getting proud, and starting to, having a mindset where we thinking, we this and we that, and we doing this and doing that. Nah, it's Yahweh Shai that's giving the spirit to do so. And if we're not humbling ourselves in the sight of Yahweh Shai, he will take what he gave us away. You see, and cast you off, man, and show you that you ain't nothing without him. You see, we supposed to be walking with humility, in this truth. And we got great examples, leadership, brothers, that are, over us in the spirit, that show and, give these great attributes out. And we're to follow them, man, through the spirit. So reading that again, James 4:10, humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Because when you humble yourself, and you had a humility, the Lord will see that, and he'll ultimately give the increase on, whatever, he feels right for you to receive in the spirit, man. But it ain't for us to try to go and seek it, seek out our own preeminence and try to, be proud and put ourselves in positions that the Lord didn't place us, man. We want to be humble. And in closing, I just want to grab this. This is Ecclesiasticus 2 in verse 16. It says, they that fear the Lord. So, which one was I looking for? Yeah, Salakia. But I started verse 16. And the point was in 17. It says, Sirach 2 and 16, they that fear the Lord will seek that which is well pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. So if you really fear the Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, you're going to do what's pleasing unto the Lord and what the Lord asking and requiring us to do. And the Lord asking and requires us to be humble. The Lord said he showeth grace to the humble. You see, before honor is humility, man. And that was the same type of spirit that our Lord Yahweh Shai walked on this earth with, over 2,000 years ago, man. Scriptures say, learn of me for I'm lowly and meek. And we can't just read these things, for face value and not consider them for our own selves. We really got to be clothing ourselves with this. And I'm speaking this and saying this, first and foremost to my own self, man. Because like I said, man, we all go through a spell, and different things, but that's where examining ourselves come to place. It should have to take for a brother to have to tell you, we're supposed to be examining ourselves daily, and understanding, when a pride is trying to set in and rebuking it, man, and continuing to humble ourselves, and not getting the big head, with the things that Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai has given us. It says, verse 17, they that fear the Lord will prepare their hearts and humble their souls in his sight. So if you really fear Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, you're going to humble yourself, man, because a proud person, you see, they're not going to fear the Lord and do what's pleasing to him, because they're going to let their arrogancy and pride get in the way of doing, what Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai command them, because they think it's all about them. They're looking at their own, self-glory and different things. And we don't want to be like that in this truth, man. We don't want to get too carried away, with what Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai has given us, to the point to where, we using this thing to big our own selves up instead of giving the glory and the the glory, just giving the glory back to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man. At the end of the day, we gotta continue to remain humble, man. Ask the Lord and pray to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, to give us that spirit, man. Because, like I titled this lesson, once again, the Lord giveth grace unto the humble, So that's all I just wanted to bring out through the spirit, man. We just got to continue, to humble ourselves, man, check that pride at the door. Don't let, because pride is a sneaky demon, man. You don't want to let pride creep in, and overthrow your faith, man, to where you will do something that's displeasing to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai because of your pride, man. We have to check pride and, humble ourselves, man. And once again, saying this first and foremost to myself. So with that being said, I pray and hope this lesson was edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And I would like to close out giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah, Kodash, and double honors to my apostle elders of Great Millstone, who I learned the truth from, will teach and rule well, teaching 100% truth, and peace, love, blessings, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwaf that are listening in on this truth, pushing in the truth, trying to make their call of election sure, and shalom to the brothers that's pushing the truth throughout the four winds of the earth, and shalom to the hopeful elect. May the call of election be upon our homes. To the next time, I want to say, Kwam Yasharallah, keep the faith, shalom.